Hello and welcome to Level Up and Friends, where those of us from the video game and comic book store Level Up Entertainment get together with some friends and have a discussion about a topic we're passionate about every week. This week we're talking about the N64. We're going to be talking about our experiences with it, some of our favorite games, and maybe recommend some hidden gems to you. I'm your host, Scott, and joining me this week's Haley and Andrew.
How's it going?
Yeah, we're all of a certain age and played this as a kid. But Andrew, you're a little bit special compared to the rest of us here. You have a complete N64 collection.
I do all 296, and of course, there's the variants as well. Gray carts, blue carts. Yeah, got all those. Not for resales. I'm not that crazy, but
Yeah,
everything else.
but you have access to all of the games at any moment, and that's pretty crazy. I remember because we
Yep.
were helping you guys, you get it, as we got games in, so we kind of knew what games you were looking for, and I know you saved off like all of the weird sports games for the end.
Yeah, I thought going along, you come across the sports games, and of course they're like the worst condition always because everybody just wrecks those carts. So every time I come across them, I'll be like, you know what, I'll probably get one that's better than this. I'll probably find one better than this, and then eventually you just don't find any. They just are nowhere to be found at all. My last game was actually a sports one. NBA Jam 2000 was my last one, and I remember you guys had it in store,
Mhm.
actually complete, like still sealed,
Yeah,
and I was like, and it was at the time it was like $10 or something, and I was
yeah,
like,
that's
you know what, I'd rather not get it sealed because I want to actually play these games. And then years go by and I never see another NBA Jam 2000. So it's weird how that happens, how some of the games that are rare show up a lot more than the ones that are common.
I think maybe it's just because, like, hey, I know I have got, here's a sculptor's cut or a Conker's Bad Fur Day. Like, people want to show them off. Like, no, the like NBA jams just go in a box and nobody talks about them.
Yeah, they're
Um,
just buried in someone's attic and they'll come out at a yard sale in 15 years, I guess.
yeah. So, what made you want to collect the full run of the N64 library?
Um, so I guess one of the main reasons that I thought, like, okay, I could go for this full library is that it's a heck of a lot smaller than the rest of them.
Mhm.
If you're going to go for a complete NES, you're talking about 1,000 plus games. Super Nintendo, you're talking about hundreds. Whereas for N64, it had such a kind of a limited run, even though so many people have fond memories of it. There's only 296 games. Like, and really, when you think about that, people only remember like 30 of them, right? So,
Yeah,
just the sheer volume or lack thereof was kind of like the first thing that was like, you know what, this is something attainable, so let's go for it. And the second thing is that was kind of like my first real intro into gaming. I had a Super Nintendo, but Super Nintendo, when you're 6 years old, is kind of like, what's mom and dad get me for Christmas? You don't really like actively go out and search for these games when you're that little. But then, getting Nintendo 64, I can still remember going to Toys R Us, having the little slip, and then going to the back, and the magic guy in the back brings out the box. And I got the Star Wars Racer Edition.
hmm
Um, and I remember sitting in the Hamilton parking lot outside of Sears, and I'm looking at the box like, oh my God, this is so cool. So, like, I don't have those memories from Super Nintendo. We got it on Christmas, so I don't really remember.
yeah,
But for uh for that, like, I vividly remember holding that box, going into Walmart after and seeing like, oh, I'm gonna get this game, and walking out of there with Banjo Kazooie the same night. Like, those are some things that I feel like maybe even kids today don't even get that kind of like gratification of getting games. Like, I'm a teacher, and my middle school kids just kind of talk about games like like spitting out these games that they're just getting left and right. But you don't. Uh, I don't know if they have those memories where they're like holding that box and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." Um, and it was kind of maybe it hadn't become mainstream enough that it was still kind of like a really special, unique moment when that kind of stuff happened.
yeah. I know I've mentioned it on the podcast a couple times, but I'll mention it here again. My experience getting with the N64 was torturous. The year it came out was like what, 1996, right? And
Yeah.
my mom worked at in the mall. She worked at Sears. So she was able to kind of get them, but like they were super hard to get, and like, you know, kind of like how the Switch was when that came out, and you know how new game consoles are now, like PlayStation 5 was this past year. Um, so she ordered me one. It didn't come before Christmas, but she got Mario 64. So she wrapped that and put that under the tree for me. I was so excited, and then I had to wait like a month at least to get the actual console to play it with, and it was just torture just having the game sitting there. And like I read the manual over and over and over again because I couldn't wait. And then when I finally started playing it, I beat it. Took me like over like 2 hours to beat King Babam. And then I thought I beat the game because I was so used to like NES games. And then the game kept going and it kept blowing my mind. And then when I beat Bowser for the first time, I was like, all right, I just beat the game. And then it did more of the castle opens up, and it kept it was such a big revelation for me. What about you, Haley? You have a story about how you got the N64?
Yeah, all right. So the year is like 1997 maybe. I'm 4 years old. I'm a rambunctious little scamp, and I'm like a very outdoors kid, right? So one day, I'm a little bit too outdoors, and I wind up breaking my femur, which is the really big bone between your hip and your knee.
Mm.
Just snapped it clean in half.
Oof.
So wound up in a body cast, and this is relevant because I was just so bored. I'm a 4-year-old kid in a body cast. So my dad, thinking like honestly just a brain genius, comes home like the next day with a Nintendo 64. And he's just like, this is something you can do that's fun that you don't gotta get out of your wheelchair for. So he comes home with that, and like definitely Mario 64. I think Banjo Kazooie, but I know I had that early, but I don't remember like how early. But like that was it. It was a lock. That was just like the point my life changed direction at 4 years old, I guess. And
then
I
you
just
became
spent
an
like the
indoors
entire
kid,
summer.
right? Yeah.
Huh?
Then you became an indoor kid.
Oh yeah. I spent the entire summer playing N64 games, barely understanding what I was doing, but like just totally enraptured. And yeah, it's been like, I like to make the joke that the N64 raised me, because I mean it's just kind of been there the whole time.
Yeah. I guess with that, I guess we can start going into some of our games. As I know we all have mentioned Super Mario 64, Banjo Kazooie right now. Was really the heyday of that 3D platformer. I was talking to Haley off camera before we got started, and like Super Mario 64 was my favorite Mario game all the way up until 2017 when Super Mario Odyssey came out, and that kind of replaced it. But it was the sequel I had been waiting for 20 years, you know. Like Mario Galaxy and stuff was fun. I didn't like Super Mario Sunshine, but like it's just they weren't scratching that same itch, you know. Yeah, it like I said, that game was like a real revelation for me. I, however, never played the Banjo games. Um, you both could probably speak
Man,
to
those
that a little
are,
bit better than me.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
For
rough.
real.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Banjo Kazooie was like, so here's my fun fact. I never owned Super Mario 64 until buying it for
What?
my 296.
Wow.
Never owned it because I had Banjo Kazooie, and oh my god, Banjo Kazooie was the best because it was almost like, I don't know, it took Mario, but it gave even more life to it. Just the humor of it and the levels of it just seemed like it was just Mario 2.0. And
Yeah.
I played Mario, like you said your mom worked at Sears, and I was thinking like it's cool that we all kind of have that, even though I never had Super Mario 64. Like everyone who grew up at that era and got a Nintendo 64 like has that starting with Super Mario 64 part of like their memories. Like I remember going into Sears, who had like a legit video game section back in the day, like
Yeah.
for a while too. It's a shame that it turned into the boys section instead of like the awesome video game section. But I remember having, they had the TV, and Mario's face was just there, and I'm just watching him go over and over again just through the intro, and like stretching his face out a little bit, like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Never having the game, but just like that memory. That Sears section was crazy. I know we're not talking about Sega Saturn, but my other one was Knights. When I saw Knights going at Sears,
Oh, we'll eventually do Saturn.
my mind was blown.
I'll reach out to you if we do Saturn again sometime.
I know like nothing about Saturn besides Knights was like the coolest thing ever that I saw at Sears in the Hamilton Mall.
I think I might have seen the same Mario kiosk because it blew my mind seeing Mario running around in 3D. And then when I couldn't wait to get my like actual like hands on my own. Because I remember because I'm older than the two of you, and like that was because this was the console when I first had to start buying games for myself. And I just was it was one of the earliest ones I really remember wanting for Christmas. Or it might have been my birthday. I'm pretty positive. I remember opening the Mario 64 like with a Christmas tree, so it might have been for that. My birthday and Christmas are like the same time though, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, it like I said, it blew my mind. And the best part about the N64 was definitely not the controller, but it was the fact that it had 4 built-in controller ports. Because sometimes how I discovered a lot of my favorite games is I'd go over a friend's house, like a bunch of kids would get together. People could bring over their controllers and stuff because nobody had like 4 on their own, at least in my friend group. And then like that's how I discovered like GoldenEye and just killing each other and stuff. And really the big one for me discovering my friend's house was Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey. I played that so much as a kid. I also have a younger brother, so it was like sports games were fun as we could play like against each other or with each other. So it's like we did a lot of NBA Jam and stuff on the Genesis, but N64 was like, when we both were old enough to be able to like kind of know what we were doing.
That's like one of those gaming experiences that's just lost to time. Like going to your friend's house and seeing a game that you don't have and having no idea what it is. Like that, I just feel like now with the internet, everybody knows what every game is all the time because there's trailers and screenshots and an official Twitter account. But like I vividly remember being like 7, going to my friend's house and his older brother's playing Majora's Mask, and like he's in the observatory, I think, and the music is just so surreal, and like the character, the wizard guy, is kind of creepy, and like everything just feels off. And I remember seeing that game and being like, what is this mysterious wonderland of a game that I've never, and this, I think this was, I was like 7, so I think the GameCube was out and this guy was playing this game. And there's just like the mystery of that. I miss it so much.
Yeah. There's something about Majora's Mask specifically. It's my favorite 3D Zelda game. But like the atmosphere in it, it's so weird and dark and kind of depressing in a lot of ways. Yeah. Like it just feels so different and unique. Like there has never been another Zelda game that feels like that. And because this is the time when I got into the Zelda series between the 1-2 punch of Ocarina of Time and Link's Awakening for Game Boy, because Pokemon had just come out, so I wanted a Game Boy. Like I just fell in love with that series, and the Majora's Mask was the first one where I was like waiting for, and I had that pre-release hype. And there was like, I didn't have a Nintendo. I think this is about the time I started getting Nintendo Power on more regularly. But I remember just poring over that, and like the internet was around, but it wasn't really like a thing as it is now. So we didn't have like tons of videos and stuff for it. So just there was a lot of mystery around the game too, other than I knew you could have the transformation masks, but man, once I could start rolling around as a Goron, like that's all I did was just farm stuff in Hyrule Field, or Termina Field rather.
It was so mystical to me. All right, so this story actually like bookends itself, because so I go to this kid's house, I'm like seeing his brother play the game, and then like 2 or 3 years pass to the point where I'm like, I'm old enough to be going around town with like a $10 bill in my pocket. And there's like a retro game store in town, and they have a copy of Majora's Mask on the shelf. And so it was my first ever like N64 game that I bought after the N64 was gone. And it was that kid's cartridge. Like,
oh,
so
really?
It came back around. Yeah, we lived in the same town, so he must have sold it at the store, and then I picked it up.
Oh man, you could have just paid him directly.
I wish I knew.
I don't want to encourage people to do that because then I'd be out of business. I'm just kidding. Obviously, we also sell comic books, so it's fine. I think my first big video game purchase on my own was Super Smash Brothers, and that was a game I didn't know it existed until it came out. This kid I was in middle school was telling me about it. He's like, "Oh yeah, I just got this fighting game with Mario and Pikachu," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he lived in my neighborhood, so I went over his house after work, and it blew my mind. And I was like, "Oh my god, I got to go to EB Games." And I think Wes, who works at our store now, sold it to me. I had like, oh man, speaking of
but the commercials,
I didn't see the commercial until after I bought the game.
The commercials got me so excited as a kid because I knew what a Mario was and I knew what a Pikachu was, but I had no idea what like a Yoshi was yet. I wasn't like that into the Mario series. So it blew my mind. I was like, why is Mario fighting Pikachu and who's the monkey? Like, and I was so excited. I think my dad bought it for me like the first time we saw the commercial.
I didn't know who
I didn't
Samus
remember any.
was. Yeah.
Me either. I had no idea. I knew Mario and Pikachu. I don't think I even knew Luigi yet.
And forget Captain Falcon. Like,
I remember when I unlocked
where'd you come from?
when I unlocked both Captain Falcon and Ness, I was like, who are these characters? And then I looked at their
I
games.
didn't know Kirby.
Then I looked at who their games were. I was like, I never heard of F-Zero. I never heard of Earthbound because I didn't have it in Super Nintendo. But it didn't matter. They
Yeah,
were
my
still
buddy
fun
had
to
that.
play, you know.
Yeah, my buddy had that game and I hadn't heard of it at all before. And then he was just firing it up like his older brother was playing it. And then we got our turn on it. And I remember just like it was too much for me to process what to do everything. So I just picked Kirby and I would just float and down B, down B, down B. And I'm just going crazy. My friend's like, okay, we're not gonna play this anymore.
Yeah.
It was either
Okay.
that or the Pikachu Thunder. You got to pick one or the other.
Oh yeah, those were top tier strats back in the day. You know? But yeah, I've always loved crossovers and stuff in general, and like I said, I was a big Kirby fan as a kid, so I was like, oh, Kirby's also in it. I got really excited. But yeah, I used to play that so often. Like that was the game that we always played when any amount of friends came over, is we would play that. And then, you know, obviously I'm still playing Smash Brothers to this day. Like, you know, I'm stoked that Sephiroth joined. It wasn't a character I was expecting, but that was cool. But like, if I could show my kid self like the Smash Brothers roster now, well, yeah, I wouldn't know who half the characters were, but like just the fact that there's like almost 80 of them, and the fact that Sonic is in it and Mega Man, that's all I would need. Because I didn't get into Castlevania till later, but
Looking back at the old roster and you're like, oh, that's all it was. It's like
Yeah.
looking back, it's kind of amazing to see. Like, what was it, 10, I think, right?
there's
My memory
12,
serves me
12
correctly.
total characters. You started with
12.
8, and then there was 4 unlockable characters.
Right. I forgot if it was 5 and 5 or 6 and 6, but yeah, it's
But
yeah, just to go from that to this.
I mean, they're really like Nintendo, like they are Nintendo's all stars, and like even then, like I would argue that some of them aren't really anymore like Fox, you know.
Now, have you guys seen the hot new mod Smash Remix?
I saw that. Yes,
It is
check it
so
out.
fun. Like it adds like Wario and Bowser and then like Ganondorf and Falco and the clones. But they also put in the Mad Piano from Mario 64. As like you can play as the piano.
Didn't they just update it with can't you play as Ridley now too?
Maybe they did. If they did, I missed a trailer.
I saw a recent trailer for it where they added like a ton of stages and stuff too.
That's rad as heck. The last thing I saw
Oh, you know
saw
what?
from them was Bowser.
I might be thinking Melee. I'm sorry. I think someone just
Mm.
finally modded that. Yes, because they added all the N64 stages. That's why I was thinking it. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Because just like, ooh, that's cool that they can have all of that. But it's like actual additional content. Like you know, because a lot of mods like will replace stuff with other things.
Yeah.
It's all added to it, so it's got all the base content plus that. But yeah, no, I have seen those mods though where they add Bowser because he looks like Bowser, from Mario 64.
Yeah, he looks like Mario Party Bowser. He looks so
Yeah.
dumb.
Yeah.
Can we just say Mario Party Bowser is like the ugliest rendering of Bowser ever?
His voice,
How
he
did they
sounds
How'd they even come up with that image of what Bowser is? It's just N64 Bowser is a next level.
I'll be honest with you
I even
guys.
feel like
Yeah, I never played the Mario Party games until like the Wii era. Like I still haven't played any of the 64 ones, so I don't have that blister experience.
Oh wow. I spent many I mean, I got Mario Party 2 right here in
Oh,
the
yeah.
Hall of Fame behind me. I still have my birthday of whatever, 98, 99. That's my copy. And gosh, I love that game. Best one.
It's amazing that they can't make Mario Party games as good now as they were like 20 plus years ago.
I know they stopped making good ones after like 8, I think. Which I mean, they made 8 good games, but
Yeah.
Yeah, too complicated. Just go back to the classics, man. Mario Party 2, Mario Party 3. That's all you need. Just keep rehashing that with new games.
Yeah, because I wish they could do like the Mario Kart route where like how they'll bring back like classic courses. Just bring back a couple old boards You know,
I guess they tried that with that 3DS version, but
I think that's just the mini
not
games.
the
Yeah,
same.
there's no board games. It's literally
Oh.
just mini games. Oh, it was a letdown. I was pretty excited for that one. It was a letdown.
Because the concept's
Yeah.
like, all right, all the favorite boards from throughout the series, and then like all the best mini games from. I was like, all right, that might be. It's like, you know what, that might be a good place to really play it. I mean, I've got Mario Party Advance, the e-reader board game thing.
Oh no.
That's the only Mario Party game I own. I saw it for cheap, and I was just like, well, I'm just gonna buy it to have it. But
I think this discussion of like Mario Party kind of also just leads into what makes N64 so great. Like Mario Party wouldn't work as well now because it doesn't work online the same way. And that's what everybody's playing. Like people don't get together for LAN parties, or people don't get together for four person 50 turn Mario Party matches like I used to do back in the day. Like people don't do that, and kids I don't think would value that as much. But man, having those experiences from N64, that's what really also separates it. And that's the thing that it was the ultimate, like, what's it sound like the ultimate party machine. Like you have all of those opportunities available to you. And yes, Switch has Mario Party where you can play online, but I mean, that's just not the same. You're not there trash talking each other. You're not there like bumping each other as you're trying to hit 7,000 times in 20 seconds. Like it's just not the same to do it online.
And the Switch Mario Party, like, it's got online technically, but like you're not playing the boards with each other. You're missing a ton of the mini games. It's like, what's the point? Like, why half-ass it? Like when did that game come out? It was like 2019. Can't figure, like, Nintendo drives me crazy sometimes like that. But that was like I said, it was the ultimate friend box. Like you knew someone that had it. Like people would, 4 people would gather around it almost every weekend.
Yeah.
Or you would be over at someone else's house gathering around it. What do you guys think of Mario Kart 64?
All right. I'm gonna you guys are gonna hate me. I don't really like it that much. I loved it when I was a kid. Don't get me wrong. That game came out and I played the hell out of it for a long time. And it was like the standard for family co-op or family versus stuff. But I just can't play it now. Like something about it. I just can't go back to it, But the soundtrack I'll go back to. The soundtrack will make you cry. It's so good.
Now, I am happy you said that because we got in a very heated group chat discussion about this. And I put that down as one of the games everyone loves, and I just hate it. Hate Mario Kart 64.
See,
it's my worst in the series. I have it dead.
Just can't go back to it. But also,
even
to be
back
fair,
in the day.
I don't like the SNES one either. I don't like the Game Boy Advance one. Like I got really spoiled, I think, by Double Dash and like just how smooth Double Dash is, and I just can't go back to anything less.
Yeah.
I had that as my number one forever.
Yeah, I think Double Dash, 8 replaced Double Dash for me too. If I'm going to play a retro Mario Kart, I'm going to do Double Dash. I have a similar experience to you, Haley. I loved it when I was a kid. It's really hard to go back to.
And it's like, why would you? Because if you're going to play a kart racer on the N64, you got Diddy Kong Racing. And
I never played Diddy Kong Racing.
Have you still not ever played it?
Nope.
I actually still think it's kind of worth a shot in the year 2021.
I just was one of those things. I was like, I don't care about Diddy Kong. It came out like the same year, I think, as Mario Kart. And I was like, well, I care more about Mario. So if I had to choose,
that was the one that my dad bought. Yeah. My dad was a gamer, and he played a demo kiosk of Diddy Kong Racing, and he was like, "This is so much better than Mario Kart," and he bought it like for him.
Yeah. Oh man, you were lucky then.
I know he was a big gamer for a while there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think talking about Mario Kart 64, I don't put it at the bottom. I put the Super Nintendo one at the bottom. I think it's impossible to control and really extremely difficult. But I think a lot of the nostalgia people have for some of these games, I think is just because they haven't played them since they were a kid. Like everyone loves GoldenEye. I loved it as a kid. It is impossible to go back and play that game.
Yep.
And I think a big part of it is the N64 controller is so weird and kind of garbo. And I know
talk about controller.
Yeah.
I'll defend it. If
Yeah.
somebody's got to defend it, I'll defend the controller.
Well, I love because so at school we have our after school program. We have I run like a video game club for
Ooh.
when we're in person. In the before times, I had a video game club, and I would bring in just I'd have different. I had like 4 or 5 TVs set up. We'd have like an NES TV, SNES TV, Nintendo 64 TV, like just set up all over the place. And my favorite is just handing a kid a Nintendo 64 controller for the first time. And they're like, what do I do with this? They're holding the D-pad and the joystick. I'm like, well, that's not gonna work. And then they're like they can't get the concept. So I'm like, all right, here's what you're gonna do. Left hand, grab it here. Right hand, grab it here. And they're like, oh my gosh, like they have no clue what's going on. It's so entertaining to see them try. Like if they just walk over and pick it up, it's so entertaining.
Yeah, I will say I have seen that. We've done some retro lounge stuff at some various events where we'll have basically kind of a similar setup, and we usually have Mario Kart because it's pretty easy to pick up and play, and like 4 people can play it. But yeah, when it's kid, like they don't understand. It's so bewildering that controller for them. And to be fair, it probably was for us too when we first saw it, like first got your hands on it. But yeah, some games just like have not aged well. I think this generation of consoles, or like this generation of games, like PlayStation 1 especially, and N64, I think are really hard to go back and play now. If you haven't, like, now obviously there are exceptions to the rule. I think that like Mario 64 to me is always fun to just run around in. But like even then, like there's a lot of stuff that's like really dated and hard to play now. And I think that's worth remembering. Like I think GoldenEye, there's no point in playing that now. I think Twin Sticks ruined first person shooters, and I'm not even a first person shooter. We ruined it in the sense that like you can't go back to before then. But I used to sink so much time to that. I also used to play Turok all the time. I didn't know what I was doing. But
Yeah,
it was a game with dinosaurs, so I wanted to play it.
I had no idea. There's just this big fog-filled void, and you're running around, and there's raptors sometimes. And I'm like 5 years old, like, what is happening? But I still liked it because it's dinosaurs. Like,
Yeah.
And you're a 5-year-old kid.
That was basically my experience with it as well.
My experience was like I got it one time and there was like ladders around and I couldn't figure out how to climb them, and that was about the end of the rock for me. I was like, and I can't really see what's going on, and I can't climb anything, and I'm dead.
Turok might have been good, but I'll never know. I still have a cartridge of it. I will never put that back in my system.
It's actually one of the things limited run games came out with ones that look like them, and I actually got it sitting over here. So they actually came out with ones that were like retro looking N64 boxes, but it's like Switch.
Wow.
I got Turok 2, Turok 1, like legit. Well, they remade them for the Nintendo, for the Switch, and
yeah, I remember they did them.
I had to get these. I mean, this is just too cool.
That's really cool.
They did the same thing for Ukulele. They had a same kind of box.
Did Hat in Time do that? I feel like Hat in Time did that. I'm not 100%.
Did Hat in Time have a limited run games release? I don't
think so.
I have a physical copy for Switch, but I don't know if they did the N64 box. I could be manufacturing memory.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I would have had it, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I was like, oh man, I need to have that.
I know it's got like an N64 mode where like it looks like those old school polygonal graphics.
Yeah.
Which is a cool touch.
Even that couldn't save Ukulele for me.
Yeah.
They put that in Ukulele, and even that couldn't fix it.
It is interesting seeing the indie game resurgence for like these kinds of games, like these kinds of 3D platformers, like 90s throwbacks now.
Yeah, it's right on schedule. It's we got our platformer boom, we got our indie RPG boom, and now we're on the indie collectathon boom, and I'm loving it personally.
Oh yeah, I know you're a big collectathon guy, Haley. I personally am not. And I think that's part of the reason I never got into the Banjo-Kazooie series. Like, I think, granted, I know Donkey Kong 64 is it to its nth degree, but like I find them so repetitive and so boring at a certain point that like even going back like as an adult trying to play like Conker's Bad Fur Day, I'm like, oh god. I mean, granted, they're cute and they're fun and like have charm and humor and whatnot, but it's just like I play video games for the gameplay and like I get so bored with all the like
Yeah.
gatekeeping and stuff in it.
This is where I differentiate Banjo and Mario 64.
Mm.
So I mean, I should clarify. Mario 64 raised me like a father. Like to this day, I tweet out like Mario is my dad. Every time they do a Mario tweet, I'm like, oh, it's my dad doing something. But like, um, they're just very different games. Like I think of it more as Banjo Kazooie is just straight up a scavenger hunt, and also you're talking to people, and like there's character interaction and stuff, and it's more of like a fleshed out world. Mario 64 is just like gymnastic jungle gym. Like it's about how you get there. It's about the movement. Whereas Banjo Kazooie, I think, is what you see along the way. Mario 64 is about how just bouncy and fun it is to get from A to B.
Okay. Because my favorite thing about Mario 64 is just moving around in it.
Exactly.
I guess I can see that. I just don't think collectathons are my personal genre.
I
Although I
think they
do,
would be for me.
although I
didn't
do
race.
like Hat in Time, but
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about some of our other favorite games. Andrew, what's one of your favorites we haven't talked about yet?
All right, so I made my top 5 list.
Okay.
Number 1 on my top 5 list is Mario Party 2.
Okay.
So
Nice. Okay.
So I did include that on there.
Can I ask why Mario Party 2 specifically versus the other two Mario parties that are on there?
I think so. Mario Party 1, I was big in renting it, and it was like it had the nice setup, and the games were good, but it was like it wasn't fully polished. It wasn't fully there yet. And I feel like Mario Party 2 like got you there. That and Mario Party 2 has the best boards. Mario Party 2 has the best collection of games. I can still go back and go and see the tree and play all the games over and over again. Like bumper balls, it's always going to end in a tie, but I'm going to have a blast playing it. All right. And it's like Mario Party 2 was just like the pinnacle. I couldn't tell you the number of 50 turn matches that we had to save and come back to for like a week straight that went on in that game. So changing the costumes for all of them, and then you have your superstar at the end, and then it's like, oh geez, I forget who had the most coins, so who's going to be a superstar? And it's like, it's Yoshi with his little galactic ray gun. Like when just being able to have that whole scene play out on the screen, and you just like trump around the room like, yes, it's me, and all your friends are all just like sitting there having to watch your character do some crazy little cutscene at the end against Bowser. Like that was just the icing on the cake. So man, Mario Party 2, when I got that on my birthday, and I went to Catholic school, and I was born on St. Patty's Day. For some reason, we just always had off on St. Patty's Day. And so I would just, every time we got a birthday video game, I was hammering away the whole day. And that one did not come out of my system very often.
All right. It's a good pick. What's your number 2?
Number 2, I had Banjo-Kazooie.
Okay.
Again, we've talked in detail a lot about it. Number 3, Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
I didn't get into it until later. So I never had it growing up. My one friend did, and I would go over and watch him play it sometimes. But I was never a huge Zelda kid, and it's because I think probably because I didn't grow up with the NES. So therefore I really didn't dive in from that. And I never had I never had one until I don't even know what my first Zelda game was. I think Oracle of Ages.
Okay.
For game. There's some random game that I bought one day. But once I came back and played it, of course, everyone always hypes it up. So it was way after that fact. But I played, I was like, all right, that's a damn good game. All right.
Oh, so it did live up to the hype. I was curious what you thought of it like way after the fact.
And maybe because I hadn't played other ones. Like I'm not a huge Zelda guy. I played Breath of the Wild. I've played a little bit of Wind Waker. I've played a little bit of like Skyward Sword. Like I've played a little bit of them, and then I'm always just kind of lost interest in them. But going back, and we had like a blizzard, so I just went back and played it when stuck in my room, and it was good. It was good. I never played Majora's Mask though. Never did.
I would say give Majora's Mask a shot. It's it's really different. I like the 3-day system. I know that's a big piece of contention for a lot of people, but it really like puts a timer on your ass. So like you can't like it completely changes how you play the game.
Yeah. And it's not even like that big of an issue. I mean, I always feel like there's exactly two experiences that you have with Majora's Mask. When somebody says they've played it, either their experience was they played the slowed down Song of Time and just took a merry stroll through the game and never felt pressed for time, or they just felt the weight of that timer on them the entire time and it ruined their experience. I feel like those are the two versions of the game.
But like that's an intentional feeling that the game is giving you because
Yeah.
the world is going to end in 3 days. Like you have to, you can't just like, I know like, there's a lot of people like the Zelda series for like exploration and stuff. I think because this is the era when I started playing them, yes, you can explore a bunch in Ocarina of Time, but I think those games aren't as open as people really remember them. I think we were just kids. And like, I didn't like the NES games. I didn't have Super Nintendo, so I didn't play Link to the Past. So like, I don't know. That wasn't a problem for me, but like, I love the 3-day system. It's the first one. I think one of the few that still feels like a living world because every NPC has their schedule. So like Clocktown, like everyone kind of like does what they do. Like they're available at this place at this time on this day. Like it felt so much more like alive than Ocarina of Time, even though
Yeah.
everyone's dying in it.
And then like you see stuff like that come back in later games. Like you see every NPC has a schedule. Like in Oblivion does that, and like people praise the systems there. But like I don't know, I liked that Majora's Mask kind of gave you that feeling of you better make some progress because the moon's coming. Like I kind of enjoyed that. I feel like if a game is too open and there's no pressing goal, I kind of get bored, or at least I did. Like as a kid, I remember trying Ocarina of Time and just being like, well, everything seems okay. Like I know everyone says Ganondorf's going to destroy us all, but everything seems fine. So I kind of liked the dread. I don't know. I kind of like the dread.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I loved Ocarina of Time. I must have played that like 40 times as a kid, like all the way through. But I think if you like that, I think give Majora's Mask a shot. It is different, but the fact that like even just like the little changes they make, like just running around as a Deku scrub, even
Yeah.
it's just your characters like the different forms give you such like the gameplay so differently. All the masks give you at least something mildly useful. Some of them are kind of dumb, but you know, when there's so many of them, they're not all going to be winners. But like, you know, I don't know. I think it's cool. It's fun collecting all the masks. And then at the end, you have to do, if you have all of them, you can get the Fierce Deities mask and you can make mincemeat of any of the bosses in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
With it. Haley, have you beaten Majora without using it? He is so much harder.
Yeah, I've actually never gotten the Fierce Deity mask.
Oh, really?
I could not be arsed to do the couples mask quest chain. And it was like that and one other mask. And I was just like, you know what? I want to beat the game.
I love the couples mask chain, but every time I play the game, I screw up this one little part of it in the middle of it. So you have to go back and do the whole thing over again.
Yeah.
Which I mean, that's the thing. That's the game's punishment for you screwing up is you have to replay the game again.
That's kind of the way that I approached it the entire time I played it is like I would spend a lot of time figuring out what I had to do, and then I would know what I had to do, then I would just rewind time and then go execute. Like I feel like the game is about getting intelligence, making a plan, and then executing on a fresh like start of the first day.
It's one of those things like you tackle that game so much different than Ocarina of Time. I know we were talking about Ocarina of Time, but like Majora's Mask is my number one N64 game. Although I don't think I put him in his formal list. I just have a bunch I want to talk about. But so what was that for you, Andrew? Number 4?
That was number 3.
Oh,
At first,
3.
I didn't really have him ranked,
Yeah.
but it's kind of like top 5. Another one that I put in there was Super Mario 64. We talked about it a lot. And my 5th one's kind of a wild card.
Okay.
But being the fact that it's the N64, 4-player, you're there to have fun, right? That's another good thing about N64, like just how fun the games were. They weren't like now every game's so serious. Like you were talking about playing Spider-Man before, and yeah, Spider-Man, it's fun as heck to swing around. But there's always some like super serious tone on these
Spider-Man
games.
at the end of the campaign, it almost made me cry.
Me too.
Yeah. And like Last of Us is just like, oh my gosh, this is I'm just dragging through this, and it's just bitter. And back then, it was just like, whoo, Banjo World, running around, having a blast. And like, I got my three friends here. We're all taking turns.
Mhm.
So my last game on my list, NFL Blitz Special Edition.
Ooh, Blitz is a
And
good one.
that was the heyday. I know people who have PlayStation, they're partial to their blitzes. We had blitzes on a N64 as well. I picked Special Edition. Special Edition only was released at Blockbuster. So we had Blitz 2000, Blitz 2001. Special Edition is the same game as 2001 with an updated roster. So that's all I did. But so I picked it because it was the most current one.
So
And because the Eagles were actually pretty good as opposed to like the first Blitz where the Eagles are just god awful. So then they actually were good by Special Edition. I can actually use them. But oh my
maybe
gosh,
that's a reason they stick with the yearly releases for sports games. Your team's finally all right. Say I only had vanilla Blitz, but my brother and I would play it all the time because
Blitz is just
I like the
great.
arcadier sports games in general, and like Blitz is. I don't think it's gotten better than the Blitz series for football, and in terms of
No, definitely not. And they even tried with the other ones, of course. You got your hits and your slugfest and all that. But man, Blitz is just the original Blitzes are just crazy. And even when you do get the chance to play them at arcades, like it just feels the same playing at 64 and arcades. It just all feels so good. And just being able to demolish people after the play. There's just nothing like it. I was playing on an actual arcade system with my fiance. And she was just like, "Why do you keep doing that to my players?" I'm like, "That's Blitz. You guys got it. Your guys getting body slammed after the whistle, and they're just slow motion zooming out, so I can have 6 guys dogpile on them. That's the game." They're like, "Oh my gosh, he's gonna be hurt. You're gonna kick my guy out of the game." Like,
I mean, yeah,
don't worry, perfectly healthy the next play.
yeah. Well, you can get people injured and they have to leave the game. It's whatever. That happens in real life.
Well, they just like drag their leg for like the after play, and then they're back and they're good as go.
Yeah. What about you, Haley? What's one of your favorites?
All
that
right.
we haven't talked about extensively now.
So and that's the hard thing. It's like we said before. There's 296 and 64 games, and people remember 30 of them. So like, there's just such like this tiny number that actually get talked about. But like, my number one game of all time, just as a game, is Mario 64. I know it should be Odyssey now, but like, nostalgia is a powerful thing, and Mario 64 has some of my earliest memories of being a living human being were playing Mario 64. It was to the point where like my parents bought me the collector's edition with the soundtrack, and they would put the soundtrack on instead of like a nursery rhyme tape when I was going to sleep at night. And like, and like it came with like a little Mario figure that was just like molded rubber or whatever. And that was like my favorite toy as a kid. We wrap it in tin foil and like say it looked like the metal power up. It was real cute. That game just was like I was all about it. And the experience I had with it was basically like it raised me. I would play it all day to the point where like to get me to take a break, my mom would have to tell me Mario was tired. Like I have to let him sleep, because if you let him sit, he'll go to sleep. And like,
yeah,
my mom was smart and she used that.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh my gosh.
But then like, then I get older and the GameCube comes out and I get distracted for a bit. But then I went back to the N64 at like 11 or 12 and started replaying a bunch of games, and then just realized like, man, Mario 64 is really good. And just like sat down 100%ed it. But all right, so not to dwell on that too much. It was kind of a similar story with Banjo-Kazooie. Like, had it so early, it was just so perfect for me. But nobody needs to sing that game's praises. The one tangent I will do is that Banjo-Tooie scared the heck out of me when I was a child. I was terrified of Banjo-Tooie.
What did it do to you?
So at the start of the game, well, number one, it's very gloomy. Like if you haven't played Tooie, so Banjo-Kazooie is like this very bouncy, kind of cartoony, everything's fine. The villain is just a witch who wants to be pretty. Like the stakes are low. At the start of Banjo-Tooie, the Spiral Mountain that was like so happy and cheerful is super gloomy, and like the music's in a minor key, and the villain is like a skull head of the boss from the first game. They kill Bottles. He just dies.
I was just gonna say, Bottles is dead.
They just kill him, and they show you. They show you as they kill him, and so I'm already trepidatious. And then like, you go into a cave, you fight Klungo, and finally you get to the Isle of Hags, and you're like, okay, maybe it was just a rough start. Everything's okay now. And you're progressing like on your way to the first level, not even there yet. You have to go see King Jingling. And after you talk to King Jingling, like a big laser hits him and turns him into a gray zombie. And I was in tears. I was like a child, just like crying over this guy. It was terrifying. I was a wimpy kid, man. But it was like terrifying.
So
While
Mario
we're talking
60
about-
yes.
Well, we were talking about Banjo Tooie though. I don't think I know a person who got Banjo Tooie, and I don't think I know a person who didn't have Banjo Kazooie. Isn't that crazy?
Huh.
How like that sequel, like the first game sold so like everybody who had an N64 had Banjo Kazooie, but then I guess Banjo Tooie just came out so late in that lifespan that just like they just missed out. And I guess then you don't see Banjo again until the terrible Xbox 360 stuff. So
Yeah,
it's
it was-
like
Was
So
it
it's
late
just
2000?
crazy.
I think.
yeah. So it's just crazy to think like Banjo Tooie is the same game, and how many people missed out on that. Like I still haven't even played all the way through. I got through the beginning part of it. I know Bottles is dead, and I haven't really had the time to do more of that. But it's just I feel like that happens with a lot of these games early on too. Maybe they just missed that sequel window, and nowadays developers are not missing sequel windows when they've got them.
Yeah, forget about it.
I think it was a combination of it came out in the year 2000. I think it was late in the year 2000. And then also, man, it was just a scary game for kids. Like they put in the Minjos, the evil Jinjos, and the first game teaches you, oh, the Jinjos are nice boys. You can go be friends with the Jinjos. And then the Minjos attack you, and none of your attacks work on them until you get Wonder Wing. So like none of your attacks work on the Minjos, and that's terrifying. Like there's nothing scarier as a kid than an enemy that you can't hurt in a game. It's terrifying. So like I think that might have contributed too, just the general spookiness.
Well, I was going to say the eel scared me in Super Mario 64, but I kept
Me
playing
too.
it. Um,
All right, I should do like a non-mainstream favorite.
if you
Paper
want,
Mario.
Yeah.
Paper Mario, good game.
All right, we're going to have to bring up
Um,
Paper Mario at some point, but
I mean, we're there. We're right here
Yeah,
on it.
let's talk about it.
Paper Mario is a good game. It was one of those games that I got as a kid and I hated it because I just wanted to play Mario 64. That's all I
Yeah.
wanted. I hated it when I was a kid. I went back to like 11 or 12 years old, and it was like, this is amazing. Like this is such a good game. Yeah, let's go Paper Mario.
I didn't know anyone that had Paper Mario as a kid. I finally went back and played it like 5 years ago. Loved it, and then immediately followed it up with Thousand Year Door. I'm like, oh my god, it can't get any better than this. And then immediately it didn't, because the rest of those games are bad. But yeah, that first
Origami King's okay.
they keep refusing to make the Paper Mario games we want.
I know.
But Paper Mario 64 is really good. Like I would say Thousand Year Door is a scotch better, but it does. I'm not trying to take away from Paper Mario 64 is still a really good game.
It's still my go-to
Yeah.
Bowser Kidnaps Peach story. Like
What's
when
your,
somebody says, "Oh, good."
What's your favorite like chapter in it?
Favorite chapter in Paper Mario, the first.
I mean,
I know it's
mine's the murder mystery.
the murder mystery is really good. I feel like it's the Boo Mansion one. I loved like
Oh, that one's good too. Yeah.
it really was kind of scary, but it was like the right kind of scary. It was like, playful scary.
It's spooky, not scary.
When Tubba Blubba chases you through his mansion,
Yeah.
and like I think you can just hide from him with Bo. So like the stakes are low.
Yeah,
yeah.
you can just hide from them.
That one was memorable.
Yeah. I just remember the murder mystery. Like you're like, oh, I'm a happy little penguin town, and you're like, I got to go talk to the mayor, and he's dead, and everyone thinks you killed him, and like you have to solve this mystery. It turns out he's not. He's fine, but like it just the swerve of that. I was like, oh my god. That was what's fun about that game though. Is it was very playful and like you didn't know what was going to happen next. And Thousand Year Door is like that too. I don't know. They're really cute. It's really fun.
Yeah. I will vouch for Origami King brought some of that energy back. Like
okay.
Some of that vibe is back. We're still a deficit for named characters, but like a lot of that playful,
you don't find,
and then like also sometimes a little bit too real is
You don't find like the combat in it completely pointless because you don't get experience points or anything. Like I don't know.
So the combat, I think Isn't there's some kind of progression? I genuinely don't remember why I did it. I think it was like coins are important or something.
Because you can just use coins to just bypass
You can just
stuff.
skip the combat.
Yeah. But
Yeah, but like the game isn't about the combat. Like it gives you so much to do besides that I don't know. It's all right. It's an okay game. It's like a 7.
I don't know. I just miss the turn-based RPG stuff.
You're right to. You're right to miss them.
But yeah. Do you have anything else you wanted to bring up before we go to commercial break?
I'll do hidden gems after commercial break, I guess.
All right, so we're gonna take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're gonna give you guys some recommendations. Hopefully, we find some hidden gems for you. You can check it out. So see you soon. All right. Created by husband and wife team Kendall and Kayla, Star Savior Bunny combines Sailor Moon-esque superheroics with the challenges of early adulthood. Read for free at Tapas.io and check out their Instagram at Star Savior Bunny for new updates and projects. Thank you for listening to our podcast, but have you checked out our store yet? We sell all kinds of nerdy products from comics and graphic novels to retro video games, model kits, toys, and statues, and more. Visit us at levelupentertainment.com, and as a special exploratory promotion, the first 20 people to use the code FRIENDSCAST at checkout will receive 10% off their first purchase. If this is successful, we will do more podcast exclusive promotions in the future. That's levelupentertainment.com and code FRIENDSCAST. FRIENDSCAST.
This message is for Ileana and Miguel. Hey, this is Gabriel Iglesias.
It's Mark Hamill here.
What's up, y'all? This is me, DMC, the KING.
Martha Sedan, the Zombie King.
I'm Paul Felder, UFC fighter.
WWE superstar Sonya Deville.
What's up, guys? This is Harry Mack.
Hi, I'm Julia Lewald.
And I'm Eric Lewald. Hey, this is Matt Cardona from the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast.
Yakko Warner here, described mysteriously as an old man from Michigan. And you are watching Toy Quest 101, baby.
And you're watching Toy Quest 101.
You're watching Toy Quest 101.
And you're watching Toy Quest 101.
Hey guys, it's Ileana and Miguel here from Toy Quest 101.
Make sure to check us out for toy reviews, statue unboxings, and to see what celebrity guests might pop up to help us inspire kids with autism and special needs.
You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok.
And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Toy Quest 101.
Oh, and remember, the Force will be with you always.
Bye now.
And we're back. All right, so Haley, what were some of those hidden gems you wanted to tell us about?
All right, we talked about Zelda a little bit. I'm going to tell you guys the game that Zelda actually ripped off for its 3D formula. And I'm not, this is a playful, like it didn't actually rip it off, but it's very similar. Mm-hmm. There's a game on N64 called Mystical Ninja starring Goemon. It is in a long line of games that just didn't really have a big foothold in the West, and still doesn't to this day, but like it's really big in Japan. Came out in 97, in August of 97, so it beat Ocarina of Time to market by a year. And the best way that I can describe this game is like, it's very Japanese, but in a pre-mainstream weeaboo Japanese way. So like I don't know how better to describe that. Very Japanese, but it's what if like a 3D Zelda was also kind of an action platformer? So you play as Goemon, and you live in Edo, I think, and it's like feudal Japan. And one day, like a flying saucer comes to Edo, so it's already kind of goofy from the start. And they turn Osohe Castle. It's a big Japan castle. They turn it into like a European castle, and this is a crime, and you've got to stop them. So like on the way, you find out that it's like this guy named Spring Breeze Danson, and he's like a musical theater villain. And he's the whole plot becomes like a musical theater thing. So it's a musical now, kind of, when you have the bosses in view. And then it's just going across this crazy, wacky Japan world, going through dungeons like it's a Zelda game. At no point does it take itself at all seriously. And it's just great. It's just so good. Like, I don't know why I'd never hear it talked about more. It's like easily a top 10 game on the system.
And now, Andrew, you've got all the games, so you must surely have found some that you didn't think were going to be cool that ended up being cool.
Yeah, my first hidden gem. So my friend came over one time, and I just went to my batch of games and was just like, okay, we're just gonna pull this and this and this, and we just pulled a variety of different things. So we had like Nagano Olympics and like stuff that we put in, and like chopper attack, and like, okay, that's coming right out. And but the one that was like, oh wow, this is actually really cool, Micro Machines 64 Turbo. That's my first recommendation. Oh, where is it? Down here. Yeah. Micro Machines 64 Turbo.
I think I have that.
And just looking at it, you're like, Micro Machines or those little toys, whatever. Like, how cool could it be? It's probably a little kid kind of game. And like, we just got hooked playing it. So it's a top down, and your levels are like, just, you're playing on like a dining room table. You're playing like all these little worlds, and your controls are pretty basic. Like, no matter what direction you're facing, it's left and right or turning. If you fall off, your guy like blows up. If you go off the screen, your guy blows up. So like, one of the multiplayer games is if you're just like faster than the other person and they get left behind, then you get a point, and then whoever gets the most points ends up winning. And it's just like so addictive and fast paced and just chaotic, and it's just awesome. And the other thing that's really cool about it is you actually can play, and I think it may be the only game, you actually can play 8 players at the same time on the system with no multiplayer, like no adapter or anything like that. So what you do is you take your controller, and one person is playing with the D-pad and one person is using the C buttons on the same controller.
Oh my god,
to steer.
That's so cool.
And you got 8 people playing at the same time, and it's not split screen. Like, you've got 8 cars just going crazy on the screen all at the same time. And if you go off the screen, you're blowing up. People are blowing up all over the place. And your car automatically goes forward too, because you only have 4 buttons to use. Really, you're only going like left and right. And yeah, I think it is the only 8-player action. It says right on there, maximum multiplayer racing. Like, you're not getting more than 8 people. So if you haven't tried Micro Machines 64 Turbo before, it was just a straight up port from the PlayStation version, but PlayStation's got 2. 64, you got 8 people. So
that's
you tell me which version's better.
Ooh.
I'm shocked. That sounds like it's fun. That sounds like it'd be more fun as an adult if we could do parties and stuff again. Because you can imagine like having some drinks and playing that.
Oh
my gosh.
If the person on your controller is beating you and you just yank it.
Oops. Yeah.
Yeah, not good if you have people throwing controllers. That's not you can't have any ragers.
Yeah.
They have to be on their own. So you can only have a max of 7 and 1 rager.
Could you try to control 2 cars at the same time? Just hold it like weird.
You probably could.
Oh man. That's how you handicap the person who's really good at the game.
That would absolutely throw my students for a loop if I had that. All right, guys, you're going to be holding this controller in this way now, and both hands control someone else. So good.
That's a really good pick. I'm surprised I never hear anyone talk about that game. Because again, it sounds like a good party game, which is what the N64 was best at.
Yeah, I was amazed when we put it in there. I was like, oh wow, like it's all so like bizarre looking too. Like, the menu's bizarre, the levels are bizarre, and you're just like, is this? I don't know if this is like shovelware, or I don't know if this is good. And then you're just like, that was really fun. Let's play another one and see. And then 3 hours passed, and you're like, what just happened? That's the kind of game.
I know I have that cartridge. I know I played it as a kid, but I don't think I ever fully appreciated it. Like, I know that there's a reason that we kept it. There's a reason we kept the game, obviously. I got to go back and try it again.
Yeah, I think that's something I might hunt down myself. So one of my picks, and I don't know how obscure or offbeat this is because it's a entry in a classic video game franchise, but like Space Invaders on the N64 isn't just a straight port of it. You get all kinds of crazy power-ups in it. There's a level for each planet in the solar system because they're invading from space, and there's different bosses and things. But what makes the game fun is it's 2 players simultaneous. And a buddy of mine, like, we didn't put it down until we beat the game because I think it's like classic arcade. I think you only get 3 lives each, and then it's done. You have to start over from the beginning. But like there's some really cool like power-ups. There's like homing missiles. There's like a laser that clears like a whole row. But you only get like a little bit of that. Every world has like different enemies, and they have different attack patterns and like will shoot different things. I don't know. It's at the end of the day, it is still Space Invaders, but something about it was just really fun and addictive. And it's one of the ones I never hear anyone mention anything. Like it's not going to blow your mind or anything, but I think it's worth, because it's only like, it's less than $10. It's cheap. It's worth picking up if you see it, in my opinion, at any rate. What about you, Haley? You got another one?
Yeah, let me hit you with one more. So the N64's like main thing is collectathons, right? People always talk about collectathons, but the one that I always see missed, and I don't think this isn't like an obscure game, but it just gets missed in the conversation, is Rocket Robot on Wheels. It is made by Sucker Punch, the people who went on to make Sly Cooper. And it's like a physics-based 3D platformer collectathon on the N64. And the physics are what I think it's best described kind of patronizingly as like really good for the N64, maybe not good on any other system. And
Could be like, amazing at Super Nintendo.
Oh yeah. But like, so you're this little robot man. His name is Rocket. He's a maintenance robot for an amusement park in space. The mascot's like a walrus. The secondary mascot's like a raccoon, and the raccoon has a scheme to become the primary mascot. The stakes are not high. And so he like takes all the tickets or something that you would win in the theme park, and Rocket has to go around and get the tickets back to open up the way into the last level where you save the primary mascot. And I think it all has to happen before you're the guy who made you, the guy who owns the theme park, gets back or something. I think he's not supposed to know that the raccoon can talk. I don't know, but it's
like Toy Story rules, you know.
I think so, but it's really good though. So you play as this little guy, and his abilities are pretty limited, but you have a tractor beam that's like a physics-based pick up like any object that's small enough to be picked up, and like you can throw stuff, and it's all just really physicsy. There's a bunch of physics vehicles that you can drive around. The soundtrack is wall-to-wall bangers, but they all kind of mix the energy of the location they're themed after. So like one is Coney Island, one is like ancient Greece, one's like a mine. And they mix that energy with like creepy theme park. So like it's a game that wears its theme the entire time, and I really like that about it.
What's it called?
Yeah, it's just really Rocket Robot on Wheels.
I never heard of that. What a weird title.
And every time, and also he's only on one wheel, for the record. He's only got the one wheel.
Yeah, it's definitely an obscure one. It was one that I maybe have seen. I mean, at the time I bought it, and that may be it. I don't think I've seen it any other time. And you would know, it's on a red cartridge, so right off the bat, it's cool.
I've never heard of this.
And it got away. I had a copy of it as a kid. I got very close to the end, and then we moved house when I was like 17. And I haven't seen it since, and I'm very upset about it. But no, it's really good. Every time you do a double jump, he goes, woohoo! And it's just like, it's a great game. Play it.
All right. Interesting. Robot Rocket on Wheels.
Rocket Robot on Wheels. His name is Rocket.
Okay. What about you, Andrew? You got some more?
Yeah, so the next one I have, I think we can all kind of agree that licensed games now are atrocious and should never happen. But back in the day, licensed games were like the pinnacle of games.
They're sometimes really good.
Lion King for Super Nintendo, I had played so many times, only have beaten it with the cheat code, of course, because it's so freaking difficult. But like, you just keep coming back to it. Aladdin was the same way. And, once we got to the next generation, PlayStation and N64, there still were some good ones. I know a lot of people probably are aware of Hercules, which was only out on PlayStation 1. But my hidden gem for N64 would be Tarzan.
What?
Tarzan by Activision. It's not much of a game. It kind of follows the story. It's not very long. But those kind of games, like the mixture of like 2D and 3D, just like there's some developers that just went so heavy into the 3D and it was just like garbage, and it just looks like garbage, and it doesn't age well, and it didn't look good then, and like they just were like 3D. Yeah, we have all these megs. We're gonna pump out this
All
crazy
these
thing.
megs. Yeah.
you need the expansion pack for this game, and it's like, like it's gross. But like Tarzan, when you're watching it and you're playing it, you're just like, no, it just looks good. It feels good. Everything about the game just like plays well, and it's just, I just don't think. I think people see like Disney Tarzan. Oh, I was fine when I played Aladdin and Little Mermaid and Lion King when I was little, but I'm big now. I'm gonna play, other games. And I think it just, kind of didn't get the appreciation maybe that it should have. So
Was
that's
it
my
like a
hidden gem.
2.5D? Is it like a 2D
Yeah.
side scroller? Oh, cool.
So there's times where you're like going side to side, of course, Donkey Kong Country style.
Yeah.
But then there's also times where you're surfing down vines. There's times where you're running like in Crash Bandicoot where he's like running towards you.
Oh,
There's levels where you're going out, you're swimming and stuff. Like there's a bunch of different varieties of those. And even though it is, 2D, like it still is kind of going like into the background, in the foreground a little bit. It's not just flat by
like
any
Kirby
means.
64.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So it kind of has the same feel as that in the 2D, 3D nature. Not even as 3D as that though. It definitely holds on to its cartoony Disney animation style. And I think that, when you play it, it's like you're playing the movie, and that's, you don't have Phil Collins just going hard in the paint in the soundtrack, but you do have the that same feel from the visual. So Tarzan is probably going to run you about $30-ish. It was one of those games. They also was released with a big box, and I couldn't even tell you how much that's going to be. That's going to be one of the most costly things in an N64 collection, probably more than Sculptor's Cut if you were to find a complete box with the toy for that. So you can stick to the cartridge then. It's much cheaper.
Yeah.
I thought for sure when I heard licensed games on N64 come up, I thought we were going to Toy Story 2. But I think that's getting attention now. Like people are remembering that now, so it's kind of becoming less hidden.
Yeah, Toy Story 2 is a good game. It was one of the ones I was like borderline to talk about. I was going to bring up. Because I was like, because for the same reason, it's like, I hear people talk about that one now, and like it's a fun 3D platformer. And it's kind of like Micro Machines, since you're scaled down to toy size. Like Andy's bedroom's like, or house is like this big open world,
And the music goes so hard.
Yeah. One of the ones I wanted to bring up, and I don't know how obscure some of my picks are going to be, because I'm also skewed from just like living this every day. Is one of the ones I want to bring up is Chameleon Twist.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of a fun platformer. It's not amazing, but like it's got the, so you're a little chameleon, like kind of guy, and you can use your tongue to like fling about and like latch onto stuff. So it's kind of what I wish Yoshi's Story was. Which Yoshi's Story's fine, but I loved it as a kid, but like it's so easy and short. I don't have too much to say of it other than I think it's overlooked. Chameleon Twist 2 is weird. It's not the one where we become like more like weird ball robot chameleon guys.
Yeah, they like change how they look, and I think they're cuter. You're like cuter in the first one. You get this big round head, and the second one you have like an actual lizard head. Even though in Japan, you kind of stayed as like round head chameleon ranger.
Yeah. The first one's a round head one. Yeah, so I always get them confused. But yeah, I mean, 2's not bad, but I think the first one is underlooked.
Would I be off sides sports? Would I be out of bounds saying that Chameleon Twist #1 is kind of an N64 game that I think has SNES game energy, and I attribute that to it being a Sunsoft game.
I guess I could see that. Yeah, it is. I feel like it's got more. It's like more 2.5D than it is 3D in a lot of ways. If that makes any sense. It's hard to describe without like having footage in front of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's like some rooms that are the wall texture is just polka dots or like just candy stripes. And like that's the kind of stuff that you didn't really see. Like people were already immediately like, well, we need realistic rock texture. Like you kind of stopped seeing the playful, simple pattern environments, but Chameleon Twist still did it. And I think that made it feel like a generation, like the previous generation, visually anyway.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having Super Nintendo energy. Super Nintendo's great.
Oh yeah.
But I definitely like, what was it, Andrew, you were bringing up, like everyone wanted to be like hyper realistic, and this was the time to get like mature. That's why I think a lot of this stuff does not age well. It's all brown and muddy and just like ugly. Because like textures and stuff weren't there. Like even Ocarina of Time, like the textures in that game suck. Like that's the one thing with the 3D version, I was like, oh yeah, they fixed it. It looks good. I think Majora's Mask, the 3D one, that they changed too much stuff. That it loses, like there's still value in playing the N64 version.
I think the muddiness enhances the dreary energy of Majora's Mask. If that makes sense.
They changed how the bosses work. They changed how the Bomber's Notebook works. They changed a lot of things about it. I mean, core gameplay's still there, but like, yeah, it's also a lot more colorful and bright. And I'm like, yeah, it looks good, but like not the same. Whereas Ocarina of Time, I think that was fine. But it's funny, like, games from this era have to get remastered now, and they have to fix. They generally make them more colorful. But yeah, so I don't know. Chameleon Twist is fun. I would say give it a shot if you haven't. If you have the option to. I think it's only like $15-ish as of this recording. It's sub 20 for just a loose cart.
Yeah, the first one's cheaper. The second one's a little more costly.
Yeah, second one's harder to come by.
Yeah, when I sent my my friends the list of games I was gonna bring up, the only thing my one friend had to say was, I don't see Chameleon Twist on there. And
Okay.
There you go. So thank you, Scott. You brought up
Like I said, I
brought that
wasn't
up.
sure how obscure it is, because like I usually am sitting on like 3 copies of Chameleon Twist at the store. But I'm glad I brought it up then. You got another one then, Andrew? Do you have a list of these as well?
I did. Now mine isn't. I put it on Hidden Gems just because nobody really has it for the N64. Everyone knows about them, but you're not going to be able to buy this one. So I'm kind of up in the air on if I want to include it. But I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Worms Armageddon if we're talking about a party console and a party games. Like Worms Armageddon's just got to be on there. And like I said, you're not going to be able to go out and find it easily. I think the last copy I bought, I have 2 because of course. Actually, I came into Level Up and I said, if you guys still have this in a week, I'm gonna buy it. And it came back and it was a week, and I was like, God damn it, okay, I guess I gotta buy it. And it was my second copy because I was like, you know what? You never see these, they never come into the store. Like people say don't buy video games for investments, but still, it's like there's that nostalgia. And Worms Armageddon is like the best Worms game ever created. Now, I first started. Actually, my first copy was Dreamcast, the Dreamcast version, which is very easy to come by. I also have the PlayStation 1 version, also very easy to come by. Both of those are under $10. Worms Armageddon for N64 came out, I think it was the second to last game, maybe, released. It was definitely in the very, very end. So it's going to run you like 200 or more. But, oh man, just being able to get your friends out there and pick on these goofy named, worms and drop holy hand grenades on them and throw sheep at them. Like there's just nothing like a game of Worms and just going up and prodding somebody off the edge into the water.
That's the best part. Yeah.
It's just such a slap in the face. You're like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Damn it. You did it.
Yeah.
And you just can't do anything about it. And you said you were talking about turn-based and like Worms. I mean, it was released for PS Plus. Like they had that new Worms that came out. So I think people, at least are familiar with it. But, if you ever have the opportunity to go back and play one of the Worms games from this era, that's just the peak. And so Hidden Gem, because nobody literally has the game. But you could get it for other systems for a lot cheaper. So anyone listening to this who wants to get into Worms Armageddon, do it. Do it.
All right. So I haven't played a Worm game probably since about this era. So I know they still make them. I occasionally see them pop up on like, digital storefronts and stuff.
Yeah, I have I guess this book, I don't think you can get anywhere. Nintendo 64 Anthology. It's like
Ooh.
British or something. I don't know.
I thought we used
I don't
to
know
have
where I
it.
even got it.
Yeah.
I may have gotten it from your store, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, we've had it. Yeah.
And so it has things like when it's released and like rarity and stuff like that. And according to this book, it says it only moved 40,000 copies for Worms Armageddon, which is like nothing. If I look at Sculptor's Cut, because Sculptor's Cut obviously is
Also,
we're not going to talk about it because it's an atrocious game, and
Mhm.
the only reason it would belong in anyone's collection is because of its rarity. It had 20,000 copies, so we're talking not that much more when you're talking about games that are selling millions, 3 million plus for some, and then you have a Worms game with 40,000.
I mean, it only sold a little bit better because Sculptor's Cut was only available through Blockbuster Video, so it was never even released for retail.
Yeah, so think about that. Worms Armageddon is sitting on shelves, and they only sell 40,000. So that tells you how late in the lifespan it was. But still, great game. If Nintendo 64 one isn't one that you're going to be able to pick up, definitely Dreamcast and PlayStation.
Cool. What about you, Hales?
All right, so I got two left, and really they're more of just, they're not really. So one of them is kind of like a shout out because I don't think it's hidden. It just didn't get enough love. And the other one is I just want to confirm that anybody else remembers that it exists. So first one is Dr. Mario 64 came out, same problem as Banjo-Tooie, came out in the year 2000. But Dr. Mario 64 is the best version of Dr. Mario, just bar none. It's like Wario wants your pills for some reason, and then he's a vampire. And it's got like a story mode, but then all the characters are like from Wario Land 3. So it's like a stealth sequel to Wario Land 3, but Dr. Mario. And then it has like a story mode, and at the end of the story mode, it's got like these cute little cardboard cutout storybook cutscenes, and the last cutscene's just like, will it ever end? The end. And those are the last 2 lines of dialogue in the game. It's great. It's a great multiplayer game. You got to play on what my friend and I call lightning mode, where you set the speed to max, the level to 1, and you set it to like first to 5 wins, and then it just becomes a mad dash to clear like 3 viruses per round, and it's the best way to play that game. Okay. And then my last one is, do either of you know of a game called Iggy's Wrecking Balls?
Oh, so we're sold out of N64 games completely at the store right now. That was the last game we had.
Okay, because like I have like a bucket of N64 games somewhere, and at some point I pulled that out of there for my Twitch stream, and I had like 30 people in the chat, and not a single one of them knew about this game. So it's like, and it's not a gem. I need to clarify. I don't believe it's a gem. It's just a game.
But it is hidden.
Yeah, so it's a 2.5D, kind of like 3D models in a 2D plane, but it kind of moves the camera in a 3D way. But it's a racing game where you play like, it's a side-scrolling racing game where you play as like a ball. All the characters are balls, and you have like a tether that kind of works like a hook shot, but you can also swing, and it's like extremely Attitude Era. Like, it's definitely a game that's like a gross out humor art style, without doing just straight up gross out humor, if that makes sense. And it's just so bizarre. Like, it's a game that I don't really know what they were going for. I don't know if it's good because I don't know what it's trying to be. But it makes a very interesting experience to just check it out.
Okay. I know that was like $14-15. It's not super expensive.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's clamoring for a copy of that game.
Yeah, that's fine. I think I only sold it because it was our last like decent N64 game. Yeah, which I guess we should point out, like, kids and everyone's still really into N64. It's like still our number one seller. Like, a lot of people have moved on to GameCube, like, because that's the thing, like, that when people like become old enough to have nostalgia and disposable income, the video game console from when they were a kid becomes really sought after, and like those games jack up in price. So people started. I could see the shift moving to GameCube when it was happening, but like N64 is still there. Like, that's like one of the number one things I had asked for this past holiday season.
You know what's surprising me is like, so I've become pretty involved in my local music scene, and the age range in that is like, we have some bands where the lead singer is 16, and then we have some people who are like 30, and like, but there are these kids who are super young, like 19-year-old kids right now, who are crazy nostalgic for the Nintendo 64, and I'm just like, shouldn't you be on the Wii? Like, and it's crazy to me that like it's somehow permeated that generation as well. I think I chalk it up to YouTube. I think YouTube has done wonders for like getting people fascinated in games from before they were born. But yeah, the staying power has been really surprising to me too, honestly.
I think the other thing that really makes it like, yeah, people are going to move to GameCube, but are going to stick with 64 is there's just something to be said about the cartridge era. And the fact that you have that physical cartridge and you're holding that is just so much different than a disc. And, you know, you have your NES, and then you have your SNES, and then you have your N64, and then what else? There's nothing after it. So it's like any N64 is going to have that last, it's like the last hurrah of the cartridge until the Switch really comes back, you know, besides handheld systems and stuff, which don't have the same collecting power really as the consoles regardless. But, you know, I think that's another thing that people are come back to. It's just like cool and retro to look at something like this as opposed to a disc, which looks just like my PlayStation 4 and 5 disc. Like it's not the same, you know, it's not the same feeling as that. Whereas, yeah, we have our crazy Blu-ray 4K stuff, but you know, it doesn't look any different than a CD that shipped with PlayStation 1. 64 though, you're looking at this like it had that old school gray color that Sony never wants to get back to with their own consoles, even though everybody wants it. Like that, the gray color and just the sturdiness of the cartridge, and just being able to blow in the cartridge to get it to work, and you do 3 taps on your hand, you know, just right here in the fat of the hand. Like it can't be a little higher or lower. Like it's got to be right there. Like there's just something about that, and I think it's regardless of what age you are, but I think that's just so much different than anything disc-based. And I think N64 probably, you know, the games, we talked about a couple of games, but the majority of them are terrible, but people still like to have that sort of thing. Like they look good on a shelf. These boxes look a lot better than discs. Like it's just, there's just something cool about it. And, you know, kids are always going to look for that edgy, cool. Yeah. They just have that kind of feel about them.
Fair enough. I just assume I assume maybe like a lot with the older consoles are more likely that there's like hand-me-downs, or like because you can get them like on the cheap, that parents will like more likely to buy like an N64 for their like 3-year-old than, you know, a PlayStation 5, you know. But you know, we're all old enough that you know we have our own families in theory, not specifically us, but like then you bring on like, these are the games I played when I was a kid. Like I've heard so many conversations in the stores, like kids these days don't know what's about. I'm always just like, all right, you're old, it's fine. I say that not like I'm the same age, but like, you know, people have that in their head where like, oh, this things used to be better when I was a kid, which isn't necessarily true, but people do share on their favorite games generation to generation. Like even talking to other people I know that have kids now, like they're playing Pokemon together, stuff like that. And it's like, oh, that's kind of cool that like, you know, you can still play the same thing. Like you can bring your love of something to the next generation, you know?
Yeah. I've got a friend who has 2 kids, and one of his kids hit what he jokingly called the gaming age, which is like where they can comprehend a video game. And instead of like just starting him up on the PS4, he started his kid on a Super Nintendo because that's what he had. And he's like, well, these games are a little bit simpler anyway, so it's probably a better starting place anyway. Plus, like, I can get nostalgic, so like maybe it's some of that. Maybe it's like parents passing on the retro to their kids.
It's like, oh, I got to beat him in Mario Kart and show him I'm still dominant.
Yeah. My kid's first game will probably be Mario 64. Probably.
That's fine. It's their grandpa now, right?
Mario will be their grandpa.
Yeah, my kid. I think. I mean, my kid's gonna have. Future kid, not anytime soon.
Yes,
he's gonna have plenty of options. And that's one thing. Like what I was thinking too. Like, you know, everyone will be talking about whatever games those are. But I think starting off with the ones that are like these nostalgic older consoles also give the kids more of an appreciation for the ones that even exist today. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I do that after school club. And the kids are like, look, we play Fortnite and Rocket League. And I'm like, no, we can't. We're going to play these games. And they're like, oh, wow, this is really fun. Or like they can just pick it up and and go to town on it. You don't have to really, they're like, how do I jump? I'm like, that button. And then there you go. You just learn the game. So, and the kids, they just love being able to experience that. And it's just different from what they have. So, starting off small like that, even if, it's more basic or whatever, but they do have levels of depth that you can still appreciate, and it doesn't require 16 buttons to do it.
Yeah, and I guess maybe it looks like Minecraft, so that helps. That's still popular, right? But yeah, like I said, you with your after school class and stuff, you see it firsthand more than the rest of any of us. That kids can still like the old consoles, I always think it's interesting. Just because it's not something like I had it when I say I was a kid, I was like 10, which I guess is still young, but like I think consoles when I was a kid, I think NES, Sega Genesis, I think more 8, 16-bit, but 64-bit is also cool. It's got more bits. But yeah, I don't know, guys, going to get into some final thoughts or
Well, I have a question I'll pose out there.
Sure, what's up?
We can all come out with our list. Alrighty. So we talked about a bunch of the fact that it's multiplayer. All right. If you had the ability, like if I had my complete collection, it's 1999, Slumber Party. What are your 4 multiplayer games you're firing up on N64?
Are we our age now, or is it we're going back to like 1990, like the 90s, like when we were kids?
Back in the 90s, every game exists.
Now. Yeah.
You have all the games, every game exists. Which one are you firing up?
That's hard.
All right. Well,
we'll go around the circle. I'll start.
All right.
All right. One we haven't mentioned, and anyone listening to an N64 podcast is probably going to tear us apart if we don't mention any of this genre of game for N64. WWF No Mercy.
Yeah.
See, if I was going to pick one, No Mercy was one of the ones I was like, is it going to be unhidden because it's wrestling? No Mercy's my jam. Yeah, we'll definitely play that.
So that's the first one. So when you were talking about Super Smash Brothers, I actually made a little list on my notes that were called games everyone loves, but there's better alternatives. And that's so Super Smash Brothers I had on there, and I was thinking like, all right, you have a dilemma and you need to solve it. Nowadays, you may fire up like Smash, or when I was like in college and we'd come home after a party, we'd fire up Smash and we'd go to town. Royal Rumble, WWF No Mercy, that's where all problems were solved. Everybody just, you got no clue who's coming out next. You got no clue who you're going to control.
Yeah. No Mercy's a good pick. That's a good one.
Yep.
Oh man, yeah, No Mercy is really good. I really liked No Mercy. I know what, if I'm playing with 4 people and I didn't have it as a kid, let's bust out a Mario Party. I guess we'll go Mario Party 2. I think I appreciate that more now than I would have as a kid, because I think part of the reason I didn't really know anyone that had it is like, oh, it's a board game. I want to play a video game.
Those mini games are just so darn addictive. Oh my gosh.
See, but like I do have some experience with the Mario Party games, and I like the boards that have like a lot of interesting strategy. Like if I go this way now, I can trigger this tree to block this path, and like they can't go this way. And like I like thinking a couple moves ahead now. I think, like I said, I think I appreciate it more as a 35-year-old than I would have as like a 12-year-old. But yeah, No Mercy, Mario Party. What about you, Haley?
So, all right. So this one I have like vague memories of, but they're vague good memories. There's like a Destruction Derby. I think it might just be called Destruction Derby 64. And literally you just drive cars around and blow each other up. And it was rad as hell. And like I was a very small child with a very small brain, so it didn't take much. But I liked that game. My brother and I played that a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, the maps are so tiny that like you just have to. You can't avoid people in that game. It's just because there's always when you're playing that and you're like, I'm just gonna do like the bumper car technique and try and avoid everybody the whole time. And no, you can in Destruction Derby. That
Oh,
one is
not at all.
just all around mayhem. All right, I got another one that would have gotten fired up. Now I'm in the we talked about GoldenEye, but I am in the party of Perfect Dark over GoldenEye.
That's the
Even back in the day. Even back in the day, because when I threw the list out to my friends and we were talking about them, and they were like, "Oh, you're just letting the nowadays cloud your view." Like GoldenEye was awesome, everyone played. I was like, okay, I like GoldenEye solo single player the best. But once Perfect Dark came out and your guns had different things you could like change how your gun operated. Like every gun had 2 different ways they could work, and you could put an alien head on a person's body. Like that was perfect. And I just think it ran better. It plays better. I think you can go back to Perfect Dark easier than you can GoldenEye. You can't go back to either very well at all. But I just think Perfect Dark is my unpopular opinion. Perfect Dark's the superior game.
I never played Perfect Dark, so I can't argue with you. But like I said, I loved GoldenEye as a kid, but like as an adult, I cannot. Like I would not choose to go back to that.
It is a brutal experience. Yeah. But Perfect Dark, even back then, they were like, "Oh, you just don't like Mario Kart because it's terrible looking back on it, and you don't like GoldenEye because it's terrible looking back on it." I was like, "No, even 10-year-old me didn't like them." Like for Mario Kart, give me any of the cruising games, and I'm preferring any of the cruising games. I'm in. I wasn't a big Diddy Kong Racing fan myself. Give me F-Zero because that game still today, if you fire up F-Zero X, that thing runs as smooth as a current gen game. Like that, if you haven't played F-Zero X, that's a mind-blowing game in and of itself. And I got Star Wars Racer was my first game since it came with the console, and that's another game that, like, in my opinion, kind of blows Mario Kart out of the water when it comes to a racer. It's just like a pure racer that's just better than Mario Kart. I just hate not being able to see where I'm going. In Mario Kart, you're just like, unless you have everything memorized, which I know people have the courses memorized, but it's just so rough compared to those other ones. I wasn't a fan back then.
I mean, one of my picks would be Mario Kart 64. I do like Mario Kart 64.
That's a go-to. And yeah, I'm gonna stop by your booth at Beer Fest, and I'm still gonna play Mario Kart 64. Like,
I mean, the reason we do that is because people it hits the more nostalgic, the biggest like target, and like I usually bring like a couple of games, but it's just easier like because I brought like Smash Bros. I think I brought GoldenEye, and just it's easier to just put Mario Kart in, and everyone kind of knows what they're doing, and everyone's at Beer Fest has been drinking. Obviously, it's a festival for beer. So it's still a good time. Like I want to defend it a little bit. We're talking about all these other racing games. I'm like, it's still good. I get it is lower on the totem pole for me for Mario Kart games. I am,
Yeah.
But
I'm spoiled. I'm
it's
spoiled by Double Dash.
It's no Double Dash. Double Dash is one of those ones where, like, when I first played, I was like, oh, this is good, but it's not as good as Mario Kart 64. And like the farther I got from, like, wow, this one's way better. And then Wii came out. I'm like, I kind of missed Double Dash. Yeah. But I mean, honestly, Mario Kart 64 or really any of those games you guys brought up, if they're 4 players, because I think F-Zero is only 2, right? Or was it 4 players?
No, I believe it's 4. I forget now. I can't remember.
But really, you're spoiled for choice for like quality racing games on 64. There's a lot of really good ones. Because the cruising games are fun too. I used to rent those.
Now, I know Cruising USA is only 2 players, but the rest of them are 4.
Yeah, you can get Cruising World. You get the whole world in that one, not just the USA.
I love going from like the Grand Canyon to Mount Rushmore in one race. That's always my favorite part of Cruising USA.
That's how I learned geography. Which is why our country's so messed up when it comes to geography. Yeah, so I guess it would be pick your poison on the racing games. But yeah, honestly, that Micro Machines game sounds awesome. I kind of want to play that in a party setting. But yeah, I guess I'll cop out and just be like, oh, pick whatever racing game you guys want to do. And I'll play that. What about you, Haley?
All right, so the last like big memorable multi-person experience that we haven't already covered, because like of course I've done the Mario Karts and the Mario parties and stuff, but I was a big Pokemon kid, and my town was a big Pokemon town, like to the point where like I was 2 years younger than my brother, and him and all his middle school friends were playing Pokemon even while I was still like a little elementary school kid playing it. So Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Stadium 2 kind of just became a thing that I think we might have been one of the only houses in the neighborhood that had it with the transfer pack. So when one of us or one of our friends were like about to fight the Pokemon League or something and go to beat the game, they would come to our house and do it on Pokemon Stadium on the TV with like, 3 or 4 of us around just kind of cheering them on. And then once it was really fun. It was super cool.
Yeah.
It was tense too, because you get to Lance and it's like, oh my God, he's so high level. But like, then it kind of evolved past that into Pokemon Stadium grudge matches. And just like, why would we ever battle with a link cable when we could do it in 3D on the big screen? So that became like a big thing that happened a bunch, is after we all beat the game, we'd put our team on the Pokemon Stadium 2 and just fight in that. And that was super fun.
Another thing about those, the mini games.
Oh
my god!
Bring them up. I would say if we're gonna have our slumber party, pick 2 because it has the better selection of mini games.
Yes, I agree.
We had a bachelor party one time, and we played. We just had a house in Brigantine, and we went to Atlantic City to do all that kind of stuff. But then we came home, and it was just like people were playing Pokemon Stadium 2 mini games at some point throughout the entire weekend, and it was just that's the one thing about some N64 games. The mini games blow the actual game out of the water. Another one I'm thinking of is Kirby 64's mini games. If you guys played those, there were only 3 of them.
I don't remember. I had Kirby 64.
There was one where you were jumping and you had to like either jump 1 rock or 2 rocks, and you had to like get to the bottom, and they were like, some of the rocks disappeared, some of them were turtles. So there was that one. It wasn't as good, but there was another one. The king of them was you're on a platform, a floating platform, and your guy would shoot out like go across. I don't know what you do, but all the blocks in front of you would turn a color and then fall, and then you would try and get everybody to fall, and that was just intense. So if you haven't played the Kirby 64 mini games, there was a 3rd one too, and I forget what that one was.
I have big memories of that black one. I must have, because I think that came out late in the N64. I guess when friends were over, we would play like our more staple ones that we already knew, like GoldenEye or Hockey or something.
Yeah, I think it came out probably around 99. Again, the Kirby 64 itself is a perfectly fine game, but the mini games that was where the big money was won. So I'd go after school, go over to my friend's house, and we would just fire that up, and endless hours of and they only had 3 mini games, but that kind of tells you the lasting power of those 3. Yeah
Interesting, man. This sounds fun. I can't wait till pandemic's over. We can all get together and play some video games again.
Gotta have something in the back of the store or something, get some of these mini games going.
Oh, we could have like a whole big reopening party.
Oh yeah, we could do a whole thing.
Get like fake champagne.
Some champagne.
You mean get real champagne?
We can't sell it at the store.
So all right, so every store anniversary we frame as like the store's birthday. So we turned 13 last year, and I was looking forward to that. I was like, I can make it a bar mitzvah. But obviously we couldn't do that last year. But we've been talking about when we turn 21, it's going to be like a BYOB thing, or maybe we'll do something like at a bar. So we can have some adult beverages.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But we'll definitely, once we can, I can't wait till we can start doing events and stuff again. Free Comic Book Day got pushed back from the first Saturday in May, which is where it's always been, to now it's August 14th, because they pushed it back, hoping that like, hey, maybe because it's a national thing and you don't know what states are going to be, where everyone's going to be. So hopefully by then the vaccines and stuff are more readily available, so we can start doing events again. I'm looking forward to doing that stuff. I really missed, planning them and putting them together and seeing everybody. It's a lot of work, but they're a lot of fun. But yeah, I definitely want to do more things. And I don't know, this has been fun. And he said, I kind of want to go to this slumber party. Something like can't really do online. Like there's games we can play online. Like for New Year's Eve, a bunch of my friends and I got together and we played like the Jackbox games over Zoom. You know, but it's something different about being in a room together.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's right. It's like it's weird that the way technology is now, like, yeah, it's so much easier and you can do so much more advanced games and like so much easier to do them online. But like it is different when someone's in the same room with you. It's got such a different energy.
Yeah, you really see that with like Smash too. Like I don't really like the N64 Smash. But you know, being able to play online, just you're just fighting. You're not like actually enjoying the fight. You're just these characters and you're actually like you got legit people who are like way better than they should be at that game. Like you just need a bunch of people who kind of like half-ass their way through the game and only know a couple moves and just, you know, trash talk and keep items on and all that kind of stuff. Like,
oh yeah,
that's where the fun of it is. So
yeah,
like, even though you can play online now, I don't think I ever played Switch on like I don't think I ever played Smash on Switch online just because it's not the same. It's just not the same as being able to be in the room, you know, heckling people, you know, coming down to a wire. You got people that are jumping, their cords almost pulling, you know, yo, you got to stop. You're pulling the system off the TV. Like that's what it's got to be.
One of our favorite, because I've played Smash Ultimate in person with friends at different gatherings a bunch of times. Our favorite, mine and Harry's favorite thing to do is we do like the Smash Down mode, where like as someone picks a character, like that character's done. Like they're no longer on the character select screen, and you go down to like until there's no more characters left. Because he and I like a lot of the same characters. So it's like, do I want to just like grab Little Mac, which is like one of his mains? To like, so that way he can't get him. And then even though I'm going to probably lose, stuff like that. I don't know. There's like a level of strategy to that too, especially if you can get, you know, up to 8 people in that one going. I don't know. It is different. Whereas we play online, like my friend Kendall and I have been trying to play games online. Like we've tried to do the Crystal Chronicles remaster, and getting online in that is such a big pain in the ass. That's not worth doing. We just tried playing the Scott Pilgrim re-release. Twice in the 2 hours we played, we'd get to a part in the level where like enemies didn't spawn and it wouldn't let us progress. We'd have to like back out and reset the whole thing. Just like, this sucks. Like, but you know, I don't know. That's the N64's big draw. I know it was kind of when a lot of the third parties jumped ship because of all their anti-consumer, anti-developer practices, but I think it still has there's still a lot of great games for it. I would say there's probably just on average as many good games for it as are any consoles. Just you have to, like you said, the good games everyone kind of like knows and you talk about. I guess I don't know where I'm going with this final conclusion.
N64 is good.
Yeah. You've got a weird controller. You just got to get used to it.
Yeah. Or get the what's that thing? There's some company that made like a modern style N64 controller. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. We've had it. Yeah, I think it's
HORI.
Yeah, I think it's one of their 8BitDo lines.
There's these new guys doing it. It's like
it's kind of shaped like a big brick Xbox controller, but not as large. Is that what you're talking about? And it's got like a joystick on the left side and the buttons.
Yeah, it brings the joystick to the left.
Yeah, the Retro Fighters Brawler 64.
Yeah.
That thing is good. I got one of those around here somewhere. I think it's in one of the Florida boxes, but it's my preferred way to do it now because like I love that little controller. I love holding it like this, but I would so much rather, you know.
Yeah. Do something.
Really blew your mind when you had a game that did require the directional pad, and
Mischief
you're like,
Makers.
Like, yeah,
I was going to bring up Mischief Makers. But we'll just give that a quick shout. Mischief Makers is good if you can play it. It's a game. I think it got overlooked because it's a 2D side-scrolling game, and again, the era where everyone was just wanted to be 3D, and like if it wasn't 3D, it wasn't good. But yeah, I think that's going to do us for us this episode. Unless you guys got any final thoughts you want to bring up.
I was just going to say, like anyone who listened to this podcast, like you obviously are big on N64. You said when I went in the store last Wednesday and I was like, where's all your N64 stuff? Like, on one hand, where I like to see if there's anything that like I can upgrade my cartridges or whatever, if mine's a little not as good as I would like, or something like that, just to see if you had anything weird. Well, it stinks from that perspective. It is cool to know that like there's dozens of us out there who like N64 and who are all about it. So to know that that's the one that sells out is like, it's cool that there's that community, and anyone who listened to this so far, like, you're in that community too. And if there's anyone out there who's working towards building that N64 collection, like, a couple things. One, if you're working on trying to build that collection, like, hopefully I said you weren't deterred by the fact that these things are priced crazy expensive right now. And just know there's a lot of games that aren't the ones that are the best for the system a lot of times are also not necessarily the ones that are those super crazy priced ones. Like the ones I got behind me, like Super Bowling, you don't need it to have a great time on the N64. You don't need Stunt Racer at all, unless you're going for the complete collection. You don't need your Sculptor's Cut, unless you're going for that complete collection. And if you are, go right ahead. I condone it. I love the fact that I could say like, oh, I got that complete collection. It's cool. And to just be able to pull a game is awesome. But all those hidden gems we talked about, like, those are what makes the console great too. So, look up the ones that we talked about. If you have any other questions, of course, pop in Level Up and you guys will fill them in on anything that's also those hidden gems that maybe they can get their hands on. And just, keep on keeping N64 love alive. I like hearing about, like, when you're talking about teenagers that are like, N64 so cool. Nice. Now we're in like, we were cool before it was cool. And
I don't know if we were ever cool.
Well, according to them,
if
we were playing N64, then we're awesome. So, that's my final thoughts. Just thank you to everyone who listened, and hopefully, if you weren't big on N64, maybe you got more appreciation now, or if you're getting into N64, hopefully realize, what great stuff there is to be played on it.
Cool. Haley, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to wrap up mostly the same. N64 is a great cartridge. Library is small, but it's full of fun stuff. Play Mystical Ninja Star and Goemon. It doesn't emulate well, so do your research or just buy a cartridge. It's like $25. Play Rocket Robot on Wheels. Play Revolt. That's a good racer. Play Revolt. Just put a cartridge in that system with that satisfying ka-chunk and enjoy your time with it, man. N64 is so great.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that's going to do it for us for this episode. I think next week we're going to be talking Black issues and back issues is what I'm referring to it, but we're going to be doing our Black History Month episode, which hopefully I'll be able to pass off the reins to some of our creators that I have on, and they can lead the discussion on that. So until next time, be safe out there.